Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Sheep Plant Association's 108th conference. If you do the maths, we do about 3 of these a year. So by my reckoning, it's about 37 years of service to the sheep plant sector in the UK. So we're very proud of that. Great to see so many of you here today. We were here a year ago, almost to the day, and we had 180. I think we've beaten that today. We've sold over 190 delegate places for today. So welcome everybody. Great to see you all here. Now tomorrow, we have a very important day tomorrow for 14 people who are in this room. We have our first Emerging Leaders course tomorrow morning. It's a 2-year course for 14 people who have been identified as the leaders of the future. And they're all here today. They've got slightly different coloured badges and they've got Emerging Leaders written on them. So if you do see them, please be as inclusive as you can and make their first experience here, a good one. So for the benefit of the first-timers and those of you who've been asleep for the 14 years of my chairmanship, I'm Tim Gray and I'm chairman of the Sheep Plant Association. And during my chairmanship, I've focused the Sheep Plant Association's activities on identifying threats and opportunities. If we've identified those, we can hopefully find some best practice on how to deal with those challenges. And then we try and give it to you guys either for no cost or very, very low cost. So that's sort of the mantra of the Sheep Plant Association. We want to be the go-to resource for help and support in all aspects of business. But we do need to hear from you. We need to hear, what's on your radar? What's coming up that you think, that's a sticky thing. Wouldn't it be good if the Sheep Plant Association could go away and find a solution for it and give it to everyone to help the industry as a whole? So do talk to us, talk to myself, talk to other committee members if there's anything that you'd like the Sheep Plant Association to address on your behalf. Now, we've got a lot of first-timers in the room today, people who've not been to conference before. So I'm going to take a little bit of time just to explain what the Sheep Plant Association does. I've explained the mantra, what we're here for, but we have what we call our ring of defence. We have 3 pillars to that ring of defence. The first one is we have a retained employment lawyer. So we have drafted employment contracts and the policies that sit behind those employment contracts, so anybody in this room can download them off the website. So if you've not done your employment contracts for a while, they're there. They're free with membership. And with most of our initiatives, we have a free telephone hotline, so you can actually talk to the lawyer who wrote those. So if you've got any HR issues or any people issues at all, where you'd like some legal advice, you all have a free telephone hotline to talk to Luke, who you'll be hearing from later. Okay, so that's the first pillar of our ring of defence. The second one is we have the retained services of a health and safety specialist. You'll be hearing from him later. And central to that bit of support is a very rigorous Sheep Plant Association health and safety audit. He'll come to your plant for a full day and test all your health and safety systems. It's very rigorous. You get an audit report at the end of it, and if you pass, you are certified as a 5-star accredited plant. Okay, so if you haven't done that, I would recommend that you do so. And the third pillar of our ring of defence is we have the services of a contract lawyer. So we have up-to-date terms and conditions of sale, up-to-date terms and conditions of purchase. And if you want to enter into longer-term contracts with your customers, we have some boilerplate longer-term contracts as well. And again, you have a telephone hotline to the lawyer who wrote those. So if you're trying to do something contractually where you'd like the correct clause or you'd like some advice, then you can phone him. And it's a free hotline to get through to our retained lawyer. Okay, so those are services available to you. In addition to that sort of robust ring of defence, we have, I think it's 11 or 12 initiatives which we come up with from time to time, which are plug and play. And the idea of an initiative is that it will save members time, it'll save business interruption, and ultimately save or generate cash. Okay? And we'll be taking a look at a few of our newest initiatives later, and you'll be hearing from our retained specialists later on as well. So that's a little bit for those first timers to, what is the Sheep Plant Association? But let's talk specifically about today. This is a conference all about people, attracting, onboarding, training and developing your people. how we as managers create the right culture for those individuals to thrive and achieve their goals, or perhaps overachieve their goals, so that our business goals are met. And perhaps, rather controversially, we'll be looking at the pros and cons of artificial intelligence, AI. So the potential alternatives to people in certain areas of business. So we're going to do the yin and the yang a little bit. Okay. Now, we've gathered experts and leaders from our industry and the wider business world to speak to you today. But before we launch into that packed agenda that you have in front of you, I'd like to extend a very, very warm welcome to those first-timers. And there are a few companies, in fact, quite a lot of companies, I think 13 companies here today, who are trying, before they buy, membership. So welcome. And I hope that you'll see the advantages of being part of a very progressive trade association. Okay, I'd also like to welcome a very special group of people, the emerging leaders who I've mentioned. They're coming tomorrow morning to kick off their 2-year journey as emerging leaders. I hope you have a great time, and if in doubt, find someone with a lanyard and ask, okay? I'd also like to welcome those people who are speaking for the first time. Might be a few nerves in the room, it's fine. Great audience. So, also, like to thank our event sponsors. These events take a lot of time, preparation, and money to put on. So I'd like to thank Bobst and Colbus for their generous sponsorship of today. On a more serious note, I always do, but I have to remind you about your responsibilities under current competition law. Okay, please don't discuss anything that could be construed as sensitive in this area. Okay, so no commercial chat, please. Thank you very much. Okay, housekeeping. We don't have any fire drills planned, so if the fire bell goes off, we need to vacate. Behind these curtains, all these doors open, they are fire escapes, and the meeting place is around the front of the hotel in the car park. The gathering place is there. We have a need to stay on schedule. I've probably gone over time, so let's crack on. At this point, I'd like to thank Bar Muller for sponsoring our inspirational speaker. We try and have an inspirational speaker at least once a year to kick off conference. So Henry Courtenay Mason is one of the world's leading authorities on consumer trends. Having spent a decade as managing director of Trend Watching, he is the author of Trend-Driven Innovation, which lays out simple, accessible approach to anticipating customer expectations. Now, trend watching is used by 100,000 B2C professionals at hundreds of the world's leading brands. So this guy knows his stuff. Henry's latest book, which is at the back, is called The Future Normal: How We Will Live, Work and Thrive in the Next Decade. Now, I'm not a great reader, but I read this book. I couldn't put it down. It's in tiny little chapters which take no time to read, but it is mind-blowing. So I can see you're smiling. You can tell I've read it because it is a great, great book. So in simple terms, it's a handbook for visionaries featuring the 30 biggest ideas and instigators that will shape the next decade. It was launched in March 23, I believe, and signed copies of the book, signed copies by Henry himself, will be available for purchase at the coffee break at just £20. So I implore you to get a copy. It's a great read. So can we give Henry a very warm and rousing SPA welcome?